What is up, YouTube? HPJ here, and I'm coming at you guys because we're going to be taking a look at the Create a Card Project 2020. So, the Create a Card Project 2020 was just announced today, and the TCG was the one making the announcement. So, if you guys want to know exactly what it is, the whole event itself takes focus on specific archetypes that Konami picks themselves, and then from the 16, we start picking and voting. The winner of the event will be the one that will receive the new archetype support. Will receive the new card. I also believe that people will create the card themselves, or they probably have the card pre-created. So there's a lot going on with this. Now, in terms of everything, I do honestly have to say I'm very excited for it, ironically enough, just because of where the basis of it all stems from. Because last year, Harpies were one of the contenders and got second. And funny enough, they received support. Third place was the Black Luster archetype. Oh, excuse me, my mouth was dry. And they received support as well. So it could be potential. Maybe future sets will have some support for these archetypes. So you may never know. So um never feel down if your archetype doesn't get chosen, because you may never know. Konami probably has some ideas for them in the future. So there are going to be phases of it. There is a video up on YouTube, which there will be a link here for you guys as well, to the official video where they talked about it. So pretty much what's going to happen is, um, from right now here in 2020 to about 2021, where the release of the card will be, there'll be three phases, and from the archetypes that were chosen, which I will reveal shortly, those will be selected. They will battle it out between each other and then be selected from there to go even further. They did mention that there will be two matches each week, and the project will proceed into next phase once a winner is chosen. So hopefully, we may, if they're pretty much saying if there is any ties, there will be ways to decide the ties. Here is the schedules going up for it. Two matches each week: Thursday, Friday, Tuesday through Thursday, and Friday through Monday. Pacific time zones will be runs. A winner is chosen. More details on the next phase of the project will be announced, and then further information for voting will be in the description of the video, as well as over time the social media links will give you more further information. So from that, why don't we take a look at the 16 the 16 archetypes that have been chosen, and here they are. So we have each of the brackets, sections from A to H, and each are as follows. So bracket A is the weather versus the Gradle. Section B, Dynamis versus Lightsworn. Section C, Valkyrie versus Zector. Section D, Sylvan versus Cyber Angel. Section E, Fire King versus X-Saber. Section F, Fortune Lady, Hazy Flame. Section G, Mermill, Photon. And Section H, TG, Frog. So, yeah, that is pretty much the big portion of everything that has been selected. I have a lot of hoorays and nays to this. I'm sure a lot of people do. My only thing is there are a lot of archetypes that have um a good amount of support, which I will honestly say maybe they do need some more support just to keep up, or maybe some new support to bring them in. Maybe there'll be some future archetype that they could give some support to in combination to their own, additional cards. So we may never know, but we don't ever want to look a gift horse in the mouth. Now, going on from there, let's actually take a look at well, I can talk about each of them individually. Um I guess for the most part, the weather. The weather is a link archetype. They have a huge amount of things supporting them. The one thing that does support them massively is the fact that when it comes to them as a whole, They have a good back row game. Like they have a lot of ways to bring continuous spells and traps onto their continuous spells and traps onto the field, and then take advantage of those cards being there. Then once they leave the field through their own effects, they will activate additional effects once they get such summon back to the field through their own abilities. So you have a lot of that going around. Next up is their opponent, which is the Gradles. The Gradle archetype is focused more so on very weird, well, not weird special summoning, but they focus on special summoning, um, and taking control of your opponent's monsters. Now, going from taking your opponent's monsters, they have their own unique ability of yeah, they'll take your opponent's monsters and then you do away with them as please. There's Synchro Monster, which is a boss on its own, has the ability to blow up or remove cards based on the cards that are equipped with a Gradle. And you have to destroy the monster in order to get rid of the Gradle card. So, yeah, that is a bit of a hoax there with those cards. Then, that's bracket A for the most part, because next up is bracket B, and sadly, this seems kind of one. Excuse me, it seems very one-sided. First up is Dino Mist. Their pendulum archetype that unfortunately got through under the rug because when time of release, there were other pendulum archetypes that came out and they did their job a lot better. Even so, Dino Mist is a machine archetype, and the Cyber Dragon structure that came out around the same time they did. So, oops. And not to mention, Cyber Dragon Infinity was part of the set that these guys came in. Yeah. Yeah, it's not looking good for Dynamis. They do have some really good support for their archetype, but unfortunately, their opponent, that's a big fan favorite among duelists. Yes, Lightsworn. Lightsworn archetype came into fruition. They are a series of amazing monsters, all light attribute. Their whole setup was that they took the mill mechanic and then went from there. Yeah, I said it, the mill mechanic. Now, some of you are probably saying, why would the mill mechanic be a thing? Well, here's the thing. Milling at this point in time is a lot better than what people thought it was back then. Milling from your own deck has benefits because there's a lot of cards now in the game that benefit from when they're sent to the graveyard, whether it's through a monster effect or destroyed by battle. And because most of these monsters are going to be using it as an effect, that's where Light Swords come in. Light Swords has a great combination with archetypes such as Shadal, Chaos, even throw in a couple of zombie monsters for the zombie swarm, and yeah, it's crazy how good Light Sworn can be. Even on its own, they have their own support in forms of a Link monster, an Exceed monster. They also have their own Synchro, and they have Judgment Dragon, one of the fierce 3K attacking monsters with a amazing effect to destroy every card on the field except itself. So yeah, there's a lot going on with Lightsworn. Bracket C has Valkyrie. Valkyrie is an archetype full of fairy type monsters. They were in the um, original Yu-Gi-Oh anime where they pristine hit the board due to the effects of the spell Ride of the Valkyries. Then there's this really broken spell card called Mischief of the Time Goddess, but you gotta need the Valkyries in order to do such. And yeah, they have a really good setup for themselves. It's just they don't see a lot of competitive play. Surprisingly enough, I do see some of the cards here and there, but yeah, Valkyrie kind of, yeah, it kind of came and it kind of went, and it's kind of just here. Now, it's sectors. The Insector archetype came in Order of Chaos. Their abilities to equip themselves to each other and then pop each other for additional effects. They had these Excalibur Hornet combo. They have their own Exceed monster, Link monsters. Yeah, it's a very crazy thing with these with these bugs. And Dragonfly and Hornet are at 3, so there could be some potential of getting some newer support to help assist them. Now we move on to section B. Section D. Section D is Sylvan and Cyber Angel. Sylvan was the first archetype to initiate the excavation ability. The excavation mechanic, oh yeah, mechanic. The excavation mechanic is the ability to send cards from the top of your deck and then do counter effects based on cards that were there, and then either send the rest to the graveyard or send them to the bottom of the deck. Now we do know about excavation due to the archetype known as the um, Adamanticators, which is one of the tier decks right now in the game. Sylvans were the ones to start that off, and did have a few cards changed to have the word excavate in their wording. They have really big monsters. They have a couple. They really good support here and there. They are plants, so when plants get support, it can be easily splashed into archetypes like the Sylvans. We'd like to see some more Sylvans set up, and hopefully we do get a lot more attached to them. The Cyber Angels are an archetype that comes from the GX era. They are based off of they are from Alexis Rose. This is her archetype that she used from the second season of GX onward. She even made her appearance in the Arc V series, helping out a couple of the Arc V players, in which her Cyber Angel deck advanced even more with a boss monster known as Cyber Angel Vishnu, which is her OCG name because I cannot pronounce her. I think it's Vashi or Vash, which is the name for the TCG one. But the Cyber Angels are really good ritual support when it comes to light attribute ritual monsters, and we've seen them splash in a lot of decks. Not even ain't light ritual monsters, but ritual monster decks in general. Because we're looking at you, Necross. Now we move on from there. Let's go into bracket E. We have the Fire Kings. Fire Kings versus X-Sabers. So the Fire King archetype consists of fire attribute monsters who blow up cards to gain effects, mainly blowing up their own cards, and then dropping big monsters like Fire King High Avatar Garunix. Garunix has similar plays to the monster known as the Sacred Phoenix of Nethys, who was featured actually in the same structure that this monster came from. Now, the ability of the corresponding setups was that both monsters would be destroyed by a card effect, then get special summoned during the corresponding standby phases, while Avatar, like Garunix, destroyed monsters, Phoenix destroyed spells and traps. So it was a good combination between them. You did see these cards later on played in Cosmo, because they helped the Cosmo big monsters do a lot of destruction there, and then went from there onward. Next up is X-Sabers, a very familiar synchro archetype. They had some really good bases of synchros. They had one Exceed monster, and they just did a lot of heavy swinging to really deal with your hand. If not hand, they were doing destruction of cards on the field. They had cards like Saber Hole, X-Saber. They had Godum's Emergency Call. They had a really good bracket of stuff to them. The thing is, will there be enough love for the X-Sabers to make a comeback? Remember, this was the archetype that found a way to abuse the monster Rescue Cat, leading the Rescue Cat having to be errata because the monster's Rescue Cat previously summoned had their effects attached to them, so there had to be some errata with Rescue Cat in order to bring it back. It's at 3. It's going to be helping with the monthly, but we'll see how far it goes. Next is bracket F, and funny enough, the archetype we're going to be talking about starts with the letter F, and one has F in its name's archetype. So, Fortune Ladies, this was the Dark Signer Carly's archetype of choice. Their abilities were that they had level increase during each of your standby phases, and would increase their attack and defense based off of their level times a certain amount of points. Their big boss monster, Fortune Lady Every, came 10 years later after the archetype was released. And Fortune Lady Every has some amazing abilities attached to her. She can be special summoned during your opponent's end phase by banishing SL Caster from your graveyard during your standby phase when she increases her level. she was able to banish one card your opponent controlled that was face up on the field. Yeah. And she also brought with her the Fortune Lady tuner, Fortune Lady Past. So yeah, we have a lot of things for the Fortune Ladies, and I would love to see them win and get some support or reach up high enough in the brackets to receive some further support. The Hazy Flame was an archetype that unfortunately got hit under the rug due to the fact that when Cosmo Blazer came out, that was also the same set that Fire Fist came out. And the whole gimmick of the Hazy Flame was that they were these very high level fire monsters that had the uses of cards like the Hazy. They had really good continuous spell that allowed them to be normal summon without tribute. They had a really good field. They had a really good continuous trap that allowed them to be self summon without to be normal summon without tribute, giving additional normal summons. And then they had their boss monster, Flame Basiltrice, and its ability was that it was the first monster in the game to take multiple monsters and use those monsters as material and then add monsters to itself as material and then use its abilities based off of the number of monsters that were attached to it. And it's crazy because some people would think about Lightning Spark Dragon. But the thing about Lightning Spark Dragon was that it was based off the monsters that it had. It started with two. Hazy Flame, Bowser Trace could be any range of monsters. There were a few copycats later on that did what Bowser Trace could do, but they weren't as, potent through the archetypes themselves. Had a lot of work to do around them. Now let's move on to G, and we have Mermail. Mermail has always been flexed with Mermail Atlantean. So Mermail's overall gist was that it was high power water with a lot of water combos that fluctuated water support. Mermail has their has two boss monsters actually. One of them is Megalo, while the other one is the King. I can't remember what his name is. Oh, Avis Gaios, that's his name. And Gaios is wow. Gaios is a beast nowadays because no Mermail deck is going to leave the field open without Gaios. Like Gaios has to be on the board, and Gaios pretty much shuts down monsters whose rank or level is lower than his own. And being as how most of the Mermail monsters that are their bosses are level 7 or higher, yeah, there's not going to be much going there. And they have great water support in terms of cards like Abyss Lin, Abyss Gun, Abyss Pike. So yeah, the range there. So it's like I said, most of this combination of stuff focuses on them being extended into other water archetypes like the Atlanteans. So could Permermel rock a pure setup? No, maybe. Or they'll just probably splash in the Atlanteans and keep going. Next up is Photon. This is Kite's deck from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal series that focus on summoning the big Photon monsters to help summon our Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon, their boss monster. We all know Photon Dragon received a ton of support later on with a lot of the other various dragons based off of him, or upgraded versions of him when he did get into Exceed form. One of the big played monsters from it was actually Photon Splasher, a monster similar to Cyber Dragon that could be special summoned through a condition of either monsters not be on the field, but your opponent having monsters on the field. And it wasn't too bad of a thing there. Could have potential that they could stray away from their ciphers upgrades, and then really put on some immediate support. Next is the last of the brackets, and that's bracket H. We have TG, which is a all synchro variant deck with that introduced the synchro tuners. Now, the crazy thing about a lot of their basis monsters was that one of their biggest hits was TG Hyper Librarian, a monster who, while it was on the field, every time a synchro monster was synchro summoned, you drew a card. And of course, this led to a lot of broken combos, which did end up having TG Hyper Librarian limited. TG Hyper Librarian was unlimited when the Link era came back, and then shortly after the fixes to the um, Master Rule, sorry TG Hyper Librarian, you gotta go back to one, and they're hitting a lot of tuners to help support. Now the TGs are in the back archetype, they have a lot of good special summons, they have a lot of good monsters to extend combos and stuff like that, so maybe they could get a potential combo extender for their own archetype, and extend on to a lot of their big monsters like Halberd Cannon. So, next up is, and last but never least, are the frogs. The frogs came into Yu-Gi-Oh! With a good portion of helping with tribute fodder. The thing about the frog monsters, we had cards like Treeborn Frog, Swap Frog, totally awesome, Duke Frog, and Rodent Totem, which was played off of a good portion of that rank 2 game that frogs have, in that level 2 setup that frogs have. Of course, you can expand it even to now. They have their setup previously, which started off as tribute fodder for monarchs, which at that point, monarchs don't even need an extra deck. They just needed monsters to help support their tribute summon, which frogs can give there. Frogs have been mixed in with a lot of things. We're looking at you Gradle and you Mermel, because there have been some cohesions between you two. And frogs do offer a lot of support, not only for themselves but for those other water archetypes for a lot of level 2 game. So yeah, they have a lot of good archetypes here, like I said, going. So what are your votes? What are you guys choosing to hopefully win it out? There will be further information, of course, online if you guys want to check that out. And like I said, I'll leave a link for you guys if you guys want to check it out. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And of course, hit that bell for more notifications of when I do upload content. Thanks everybody for watching, and I will catch you all next time. HPJ signing out. Take care.